Bob DeCastro right now. Bob, you know, we've been talking all morning about how we all as a country experienced this, but it was understandably incredibly different for people like you who were in New York City at the time.
One of the things that I told Mayor Giuliani, and I was curious about where you were, because it's the common question that we're all asked, right, is where were you when you heard the news? And that was one of the things I wanted to know, because during that time, you know, he actually, everybody was afraid that morning. We were all in shock. We were all stunned. We were afraid. I was in fear of getting on a bus because we didn't know what was going to happen next. I was afraid of going into a hotel lobby. We didn't know what was going to happen. And so that night, and I shared this with Mayor Giuliani, I remember vividly when he came out, because we wanted to hear from someone what was happening. And he said to New Yorkers, he said, "I just need you to be stronger. I need you to be stronger." And those were some of the images that I had and shared with him, that you know, the whole city, the whole country really came together collectively. And listening to Sandra's stories, it's so funny because we haven't shared our experiences, Sandra and I, together, and we worked at different stations there at the time. But listening to her stories, you know, I had very, very similar experiences as a reporter going down to Ground Zero. Some of those same searing images that she had of people walking out of that cloud of dust covered in soot, and you know, you could only see the whites of their eyes. It's just memories that I won't forget.
You mentioned sticking together, New Yorkers sticking together. I mean, this cleanup took 9 months, but emotionally, people are still not fully okay. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because I've always wondered about that, you know, that sticking together aspect as you went through this really every day for months after.
You know what's sad about it is that now 40% of the lives that were lost during the 9/11 attacks, 40% still have not been identified. So one of the things that I think was really emotional for me, because in the days after, we were sort of just in this automatic mode of sort of like reporting, because there was this real sense of shock. It hit me personally when you had families that were going from hospital to hospital looking for their loved ones, when deep down inside, you know, they were holding out hope that they would find some sign that their loved one had escaped the towers, that they were alive. And I just started thinking about when I saw these families walking around, and this young kid holding a picture of his older sister. You know, they had been to several hospitals, and he broke down. And at that point, you know, you're a reporter, and I just broke down too, because I could just imagine my own family walking around the city aimlessly, sort of like looking for you, right? They just really are looking for you. So they were doing everything that they could. But yeah, I mean, after that, I mean, it was, I've always said it was sort of like a dark moment for New York, but it was also New York's finest hour, because everyone just, you know, came together, and you know, part of just like moving on with life, and being New Yorker and standing proud and getting the city back on its feet was just such a special time. And that's why it's interesting for me, because I was only there for 4 years. I've been here for much longer than that, but I'll always consider myself part of myself as a New Yorker, because we were all so proud of being a New Yorker during that time.
I completely understand that. You know, you also mentioned being afraid that day. You're having to, I think, one, do your job, right, and be strong for just professionally.
Yeah.
Also, you're human, and this is really scary. When the first tower was hit, people weren't really sure what was going on until the second tower was hit, which many of us watched on live TV, and I imagine you essentially experienced live. Can you tell me a little more about the fear?
Just like Sandra said, so when I was listening to her story, I had a very similar experience, because I lived on in Upper Manhattan, and as I told you earlier, I was walking towards Ground Zero, and there were just crowds of people, and they were all pouring out into the bridges, the tunnels. Everyone was just trying to get out and going down towards Ground Zero. So it was desolate, which it's so weird when you think of a big city like New York City, and you're walking through the streets and they're completely empty. And I got there just as the second tower fell, and yes, there were just these giant clouds of smoke coming down, and it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful New York City day in September, and when the clouds came, I remember ducking into a store. And there were other people inside the store. We closed the door, and then you could just see the dust cloud move along, and we were all just scared. The one thing that I will remember is actually finally connecting with my photographers there at the time who were there. It was primary day, so there were already photographers there in Lower Manhattan near Ground Zero, and seeing one of the photographers. He had his camera on his shoulder. You could see just the whites of his eyes, and I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, I thought it was over. He waited for the shot to see the tower go down, and then he started running, and he said, "I thought I waited too long." But he survived that, and it's something I won't forget.
Wow. Bob, thank you. Thank you for sharing. It's incredibly powerful.